Grüß Gott. It's going to your friends in where?
In Iowa.
Iowa. So, nice to meet you in Iowa. Welcome here to the Brewerie des CIMES, Brasserie des CIMES. And okay, you are visiting us, so you want to know something about the brewing process. So we will start here. We have only this simple pictures, but as you can see here, it's the same in our brewery. So you have here the malt silos. The malt will arrive by truck. They fill it up, and then if you start your brewing process, you have to grind the malt because you want to have grist. You have to make it to powder, because after you want to put it inside the mash kettle, so you want to make liquid, and for this you have to make it to small pieces. The same if you make a cake or if you make something at home, so you want to grind it. So this we are doing here. These are two rolls. This is a 2-roller mill. In our brewery here we have a 4-roller mill. That means we can make better quality of the grist. Normally you have dedusting and you have this called the weight station, the scale. It means the malt is coming here by a conveyor inside. They check the weight, that you know the complete quantity of your brew, how much kilogram you want to use. After it's going here inside, the rolls, they're, how do you say, crushing? They're crushing the malt, they make it to smaller pieces to powder. What is very important to get your sugar content, your extract, but it's also very important because you don't want to make it to too small pieces. Because you have in the Lotter ton in the brew house, you need a filter.
Filtration, a natural filtration from the husks of the malt.
So you can adjust the size of the rolls here. Okay, after you have some storage, they're called grist case in English, I think. Mm-hmm. Some small silo where you put all the grist inside. And so then next process is that you want to start your brewing process. This is your brew house here. And first is your mash kettle. That means all the grist, all the powder is going here inside before you put water inside. And you have an agitator for mixing everything. It's like if you want to cook at home. So after mashing, they have here 2 mash kettles because they can make decoction. Depends on the beer you want to produce. Here you can make decoction. It means you can use a certain amount of the mash, about 20-30%. You can pump it inside the second mash kettle. You can heat it up. You can start boiling, and after you return it inside this mash kettle. From there, after your mashing process, after certain temperatures are reached, slowly you go higher. After you split your enzymes, all the stuff inside your grist, the proteins and so on, what is important for your malt sugar, your foam. After you go to this vessel called Lotter ton, because here is now mixed the pieces from the malt, bigger pieces, smaller pieces, but because of your mashing process, because you reach several temperatures, because the enzymes are working, everything is now liquid. You have the sugar inside, and the only thing what you need for your product later is the sugar mixed with water, and later you put the yeast inside for fermentation. So, but now you have all this stuff, all the big pieces from grinding, you have still left here inside the mash kettle. So somehow you have to put it out. There are breweries that have a filter, this brewery here, and the same like this brewery here in France. We have no filter, that means we're using a Lotter ton with a sieve called false bottom, with a sieve on the bottom of the vessel. That means all the liquid, all the bigger pieces, they are settling down. This brown line here, they're settling down, and they're building a natural filter cake. So the wort is going under the sieve and is going to the wort kettle. It means now we have clear liquid, we have only the sugar, and the next what we have to do is to put the hops inside, because we want to have a certain amount of bitterness. So we put the hop inside, we start boiling to sterilize the wort, to put the proteins out, because we don't want too many proteins, they're destroying our fermentation process, our yeast, and all this we're doing during the boiling process, what takes about 1 hour up to 1.5 hours. And all this process in the brew house takes about 8 hours. Okay, after boiling, the wort is hot, The wort has 95 degrees if you're transferring it to this vessel. And as you can see here, here's a small mountain, because during boiling the proteins get into bigger pieces. The same if you boil an egg at home. That means the proteins, they are coming together and you have bigger pieces. The same is happening here, and these proteins we don't want, and also the rest from the hops we don't need later in our beer, because the hops oil was going inside the wort. So we want to put it out. That means we are pumping it inside this vessel, and you can see it here, or should be like this, it's rotating. And it's the same if you have a spoon and you have a cup of tea, and you have a little bit sediments, and you shake it, you turn it around, and you wait a few minutes, then you can see that in the middle of your cup that you have some sediments in the middle because you agitate it. The same will happen here because we pump it inside from the side and the wort is rotating and we are waiting 30 minutes, so we have this amount of cake, the rest of proteins is, the rest of troop, rest of hops we don't want to use. So after this 30 minutes we are going to the cooler, because for our yeast we need temperatures between 6 degrees up to 20 degrees to start our fermentation. Depends on the yeast, if it's bottom fermenting yeast or upper fermenting yeast. For Weizen or Pilsen or different kinds of beer you have different temperatures for fermentation. This you adjust here, you cool it down with a few steps, to cool it down with city water, to cool it down with glycol or with ice water. And at the end, you can reach the temperatures you need for your fermentation. Then the yeast, then they're dosing the yeast inside, and they make aeration, because the yeast has also to breathe. They want to be alive, the yeast needs air. The same like we, if we want to be alive, we have to breathe air inside. So this is the same for the yeast, it's a living organism. Then the beer goes, not called beer, the wort with the yeast and the aeration. The wort goes inside this tank. So, and then you can call it beer, young beer. After 2 or 3 days, you can call it young beer. From here, it's only wort, sugar water with a little bit hop taste. Then the fermentation starts. These are the cooling jackets from the tank. And after the fermentation process, they are transferring, they're pumping the tank, the beer inside their lager tanks. They are storing the beer. They want that the beer gets certain amount of CO2, certain taste. The yeast had to settle down. All the more heavy pieces, they should settle down, should become a good taste. This will happen then in these tanks. So, then to this picture here. After we stored it inside these tanks, we have still some cloudiness inside, yeast, proteins. So, we want to have a clear beer for the customer, for you. So, we start filtering the beer. This is a frame filter with some filter, what do we call it?
Piece of beer?
No, the plates, the sheets, yes, with some filter sheets. You have a pump here, you have a dosing vessel, you have some filter powder, you dose inside, deacidified, the beer is going inside, cloudy, the beer is leaving the filter, if you work good, clear. So, you pump this stuff inside this filter powder, and the filter powder gets it's getting together with the yeast. Because if you see here, the yeast cells are bigger pieces, and the filter powder looks like a tree. So the yeast cells are coming and they are settling down on this tree. So they will be kept here inside this filter, and the clear beer will leave the filtered beer, inside the white beer tanks, storage tanks. These tanks are only to bring the beer to the filling lines. Okay, after 2 ways to bring the beer from the bright beer tanks to the bottle filler, or to bring the beer from the bright beer tanks to the keg filler. Here it's barrel filler. For the bottle filler, at first the glass is coming here, it's returnable bottles, it means the label is still on the bottle. They go inside a caustic bath, the label is going off from the bottles. The bottles will be rinsed from inside, also with caustic and hot water and cold water, because you have to cool down the bottle that you can fill the beer inside. So the bottle will leave the machine clean and cold after the bottle is filled, and the bottle gets a crown cap and the bottle gets the label and going inside the package. Here it's the same. The barrels, the kegs have to be cleaned from outside with the brush, from inside, and if they're clean, they go to the filling station, they will be filled, and then the beer can leave to the customer.
How do you know all this stuff?
Thank you very much.
Herm, you need to be back.